Hello and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. I'm Dr. Ricky Siegel, a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And my super awesome big brother.
It's still the role I cherish the most.
And cheers to you. We haven't been here for a while.
That's right. Welcome back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome
Cheers.
back to all of you. I would say good to
toast.
see you, but, take that in its spirit.
We can't see you.
That's right.
But thank you for joining us. Interesting tangerine sake.
Yes.
For
Yes.
our
Called
virtual
pulpy.
sake toast.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
we did have a little break while our producer ran around the country with the circus.
Mm-hmm.
But we are back and happy to be back with you.
Indeed. And appreciate you joining, and let's bring this back. So once again, if you would, hit that like button, hit the share button.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Indeed. And hit that little notification bell if you want to get a heads up for the new shows that will be coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and again, let's pick this back up and let's keep moving forward. There's been a whole lot of stuff that's been happening while we were away.
Since our hiatus, yes.
Indeed.
We thought we would take our first night back and talk about, unfortunately, some old rants, right? Something we've been talking about since we've begun working in sex ed and sexual health, which is the issue of abortion.
Indeed. And it's not just abortion. I just want to say that, for everybody that's been in this field, right, for any length of time, we all pretty much say the same thing. Why are we still talking about this? Why are we still having this debate? Why do we still have to figure out what we need to do? Right? Birth control, certainly abortion, gender identities, right? In terms of acknowledging that gay and transgender people in particular actually exist and are legitimate human beings. We're still having these same fights and arguments.
But, we always talk about the aggravation and frustration that seems to motivate so many sexologists, but it's the fact that nothing changes. So much good work is being done, and people are yelling from the rooftops, and people get it, right? The majority of Americans support these issues, but nothing changes. In fact, things are getting worse.
That's right.
Right, with the current spate of laws and now successful attempts at moving the clock backwards.
Indeed.
In terms of women's rights and access to sexual and reproductive health.
Absolutely.
Basic fundamental rights. Why isn't everyone pissed off? Certainly every woman.
Yeah, and at the very least, the fact that all of these kinds of issues represent, and I'm going to use that word again, represent things that the people we elect to office to represent us are not.
Right.
They're not representing us because a vast majority of Americans do support these issues, as you said, yet these legislators and politicians feel it is their moral imperative to vote the way they want to vote, to create laws that they want to see, not what their constituents wants to see.
Well, of course, this is now their moments of glory, right? Now this is their moment to say that all of the nonsense and carrying on from the orange pussy grabber in chief was worth it. This is why they endured all that, all the religious folks.
That's right.
So that they could
That's
get
exactly
the Supreme Court that they always dreamed of, which, we've always said long before that idiot, that the only real power, certainly the only lasting power that a president has is in the power to appoint judges to the Supreme Court.
That's right.
Because the president's term is over in 4 years, maybe 8 if they get 2 terms. But that was the genius of I can't use the word genius and George W. Bush in the same sentence, but
that's relative.
When the trend started of, it used to be the Supreme Court was like the honor of all honors, that after you've had a long, successful career, you would be tapped to ride out your old age on the highest court in the land, right?
In other words, it was an earned status.
Right. W started putting the youngest justices on the bench ever. So
That's
that
right.
when he put Roberts and Alito, they were in their 50s.
That's right.
Which meant that they could serve for potentially 30, 40 years, while long after
That's right.
the Bush presidency was done.
And people also need to understand that the Supreme Court is just the tip of that iceberg. When you talk about the federal, particularly the federal district courts, the federal appeals courts, those are also appointed lifetime positions
By the president.
So even if nothing else happens with the Supreme Court,
Which gets
we're
the news.
screwed.
Right.
We're screwed.
Because Trump put in dozens and dozens of right-leaning, ideological judges
That's exactly right.
on the appellate courts.
And for Democrats and progressives and independents and anybody who is not far right conservative, please stop underestimating the evil that really is among these people who are doing these things. And I'm using that word because they are hiding their evil ways behind religious tropes and religious proclamations.
Even, as we're reading up and preparing for our discussion tonight on abortion, the only, the same argument is the only argument that states use in maintaining their right to interfere in this decision at all, is this belief, I have no idea where it came from, that a state has a compelling interest to protect potential life, whatever that means.
Yeah, and I really do think, and again, we're not lawyers, right? But I do think that is a stretch, because I think that what you see written and what has been codified is that there is a compelling interest by the state to protect citizens, to protect people, not potential people, right? Not cell masses.
Well,
right? And that becomes, again, this is where it's been tipping. This is where we've been crossing that line. And how many states now have these fetal heartbeat laws. More and more states are now crowding around to try to pass what essentially are nothing short of outright bans of abortion.
Well, all of this started in the past couple of months with this ruling in Texas,
SB 8,
right, which criminalized abortion after 6 weeks and has been reported constantly since then. No abortion policy anywhere else in the country comes close to that number, because in large part most women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So
that's right. That's right. And Abbott, governor of Florida, Texas, you evil bastard, making your claim that is not true. Women have 6 weeks to get an abortion. No, they don't. That's such a lie. That's such a twisting of the reality that, there's really no word that that adequately sums up the douchebaggery that represents.
A woman that doesn't think she's pregnant does not go looking for an abortion, right? It's kind of like those the mandatory ultrasound laws, right? They insist, oh no, they're just to confirm a pregnancy, when in fact it's just another of a long series of horrendous things people want to put women through to make it as difficult and heart-wrenching as if it's not difficult decision enough.
Right. That's the thing that people don't
humiliate,
recognize either.
Berate, to force them. It's like one step short of Clockwork Orange, where they tie Alec to the chair and forces his eyelids open with prongs to say, look at it, look at the ultrasound, that's your baby, are you sure you want to do it, are you sure that's your baby you're going to kill?
And they essentially were doing that.
Yeah.
When they did pass those ultrasound, and again, not the jelly on the belly, and as they were talking about,
that was an
the
attempt
ultrasound.
that fortunately was shot down. That was that idiot, another idiot from Missouri, I think.
Yep.
They're always old white men.
And Texas.
For some reason, they seem to be old white
Right.
men that tried to not just pass the law that the ultrasound was mandatory, but that it had to be a transvaginal ultrasound. In other words, like you said, not jelly on the belly, but like basically a big dildo that has to be forced up to get a clearer picture, so they claim, into through the cervix than rather than through the belly.
Right.
Which
now, again, think about this, the whole context for this, right? Mm-hmm. None of these women that were forced to have to go through that wanted that. So you had something that was forced up into their vaginas against their will. How is that not state-sanctioned rape? Right?
Because it's protecting the state's interest in protecting potential life at any means.
Right. And part of the law said that they had to watch the screen.
Right. And states had a variety of different waiting period laws, anywhere from 24 to 48 to 72 hours, where women were told, this is why I'm surprised there just never seems to be the outrage. When women are told, you simple woman, this is too serious a decision for you to make too quickly. So even if it meant because of where you live in the country, you had to, take time off from work and drive across 3 state lines. Now, once you've made the request to have an abortion, you have to go sit in a hotel room somewhere and wait and watch the clock, and then come back in 2 days or 3 days, depending on where you are. And then if you're really sure you still want to go through with it, then you can have the procedure. Right? But I bet women can get breast implants on their lunch hour.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And nobody's forced to watch horrible videos of breast implant surgery gone awry and exploding silicone and no.
And no man that has a vasectomy needs partner approval or permission or has to have a waiting period. You sure you want to sort of, cease or
because
stop
men will
your
look for
production?
any out they could to change their mind about having a vasectomy. Probably.
But that's isn't that man's choice sacrosanct? But a woman can only be told what to do. Right? So again, how far have we really come with all of this? Right? So the thing for me though, with this Texas abortion ban, it's not just banning abortion after 6 weeks, but as many of you are probably aware, when this was first put out there, obviously a big uproar. The U.S. District Court, what was his name? Robert Thomas, I think it was, or Thompson, who basically issued a stay of that of the abortion ban, calling it a horrible law, calling it basically a strategic way to purposefully avoid anything legal. That was the thing, and that's really what's most insidious about this, is that the reason that they can probably get away with it, and I hate that those words even came out of my mouth, but this law, the evil of this law, was that it is designed to withstand a judicial challenge. Because part of what really makes these kinds of laws unconstitutional is that they are enforced by the state. And this law is particularly awful because it's not enforced by the state. Part of this Texas ban is it created a vigilante enforcement squad.
They said, we're going to pass this law, the governor's going to sign it, but the state's not going to enforce the law. Instead, they'll just sit back and wait for the good citizens of Texas to step forward and bring lawsuits against someone who helped a woman, who participated in any way in helping a woman obtain an abortion, from the physician who provided it to the Uber driver that took her to the clinic.
That's right.
This is such...
And according to that law...
Such bullshit.
Right? Anybody who assists a patient in obtaining abortion care, even information, is liable for a minimum of $10,000 in damages.
Personal suit. The person
Personal suit.
themselves is
That's right.
sued
So if you're the Uber driver,
for
they're going to sue
$10,000.
you for a minimum of $10,000. And by saying it's a minimum, that also means that if somebody is bringing any of these suits forward, and let's say they're presenting in front of a judge who's even more anti-abortion, then that could be $30,000. That could be $50,000.
And the first suit was brought, right, from someone that wasn't even in Texas.
No,
who wasn't
different
even
state.
particularly anti-choice, but just wanted to see if he could do it, to test the law. A guy in Arkansas.
Yes. Now, there was one other, and I don't remember if it was the Arkansas guy or the other one, but I think it was the Arkansas guy, because he was saying he's not suing for any money. He's only doing this so that he can and have it declared unconstitutional. So he is kind of one of the good guys, and I think he may have even spoken to the doctor who was doing this. But I mean, it's ridiculous. And what makes it even more ridiculous is that, you know, no matter how many stays there are, right? Again, this law was passed.
Right.
Then shortly after, there was a stay issued by the U.S. District Court. But then 2 days after that, the U.S. Court of Appeals put it back.
Right, and this is where it gets significant. A lot of people, I think, weren't paying close enough attention.
The Fifth Circuit.
To what happened. Right, it's that Texas, the Congress brought up and the governor signed this utterly ridiculous, unconstitutional law, probably knowing it was going to be challenged immediately, which it was. But the real turning point was when it was challenged. The appeals court overturned it, as they should have, and then it was appealed to the Supreme Court, and this was the payoff for having Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett and Gorsuch put on the court. They chose to ignore it. They didn't rule one way or the other. They just chose to turn their backs and do the old la la la, we're not listening thing.
Again, think about any other context where a case is brought to the Supreme Court that at the very least has, I mean, screaming out loud obvious constitutional issues.
Right.
Particularly, it screams unconstitutional. And how many courts would look at a case like that and say, well, you know what? Rather than prevent it from going into effect until we figure out the constitutionality, let's let the law stand.
Right.
Let's let it go into effect, and we'll figure out later on whether, you know, it's unconstitutional.
The next law
or not.
down the list.
What other area?
Meanwhile,
would that happen?
Again, something else I think most people aren't aware of is how many 13, 17 some odd states have these so-called trigger laws.
Yeah.
That if, as soon as a firm decision is made, like what's the next one, Mississippi?
Missouri, Mississippi, yeah.
Right? If the Supreme Court rules more definitively than they did by turning their back on the Texas one, then all of a sudden, all these other states' laws just instantly go into effect.
That's right.
As soon as
That's right.
the first one is signed.
And here in Florida, right, our governor here, you know, Governor Ron Demented, is also setting up a kind of a trigger law, but he's not even going to wait, because he's going to mirror it exactly after the Texas law, including the vigilante enforcement.
What is it with Florida and Texas?
You know,
our nation's Bart Simpson children.
I mean, it made sense when it was the Bush brothers.
Right, when Jeb and George W. were having a race to see who can kill more prisoners on death row.
Right, especially the developmentally challenged ones.
We are the developmentally challenged states.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just these two. There's many, many others. You know, and it may be, and again, why I think even Abbott and some of these other governors in these states, I think they do know that they may not likely pass, but they are putting it out there so that they can get heard by the Supreme Court, because they've got their cronies in there now, and this could be the opportunity to completely overturn Roe versus Wade. and that's something
to
too.
Imagine that even happening. I think that's part of the problem, right? That
yes,
progressives
exactly.
and liberals for 30 years have been going, oh, that'll never
Don't
happen.
underestimate the evil.
Yeah.
Again, they did that, we learned that from our grandparents, that one of the reasons why so many people did not get out when the Nazis took over was that very same thing. That the stories that people were hearing, that's got to be an exaggeration.
Possible.
That's not possible. That can't be real. No, it's real. Right? These are evil people. Do not underestimate what they can do. We are on the brink. Democracy is about to fall apart, right? And we are literally this close to losing it. And so much of this stuff is based simply on the fact that most people are idiots. They don't know what these laws say. Right? We see this now with the infrastructure bill. People hear it's like, oh, it's all this kind of money. Oh no, I don't want that. Do you know what's in the bill? No. Well, then maybe that should be an important piece of information. Same thing with Roe v. Wade. These conservatives and these Abbott-like people have constantly been telling people that Roe versus Wade allows for a woman to have an abortion up until mid-delivery. Right? I'm not exaggerating. They basically say that she can change her mind while she is in the delivery room, mid-delivery. And these what do they call them? Live birth abortions?
Partial.
No,
partial
live birth
now
abortions.
they call them live.
No, partial birth it's
That's
still the
old
late
hat.
term. No, that's separate. These people are stupid enough to believe that the law allows a woman to give birth to a baby, then decide she doesn't want it and have a postnatal abortion. And they said that they will just smother it. Right? Now, again, this was all based on a case where a woman did, and some women do. This is not, it's not common, but it's not
I'm sure
totally
in
unusual.
many parts of the world.
That, it's almost like a miscarriage, but they're born and then they die. Right? They're not being killed.
Well, are they?
No, they're not being killed. I'm talking about these women who are giving birth and the baby is born live, but something happens and it dies right after birth. Yet these morons want to think that is done deliberately. Right? No, I got news for you people. That's not abortion. That's murder. And nobody is doing that.
Right.
Right? Well, not nobody. Some of you in your basements, you're doing that. Right? I watch TV.
Wow, happy first show back. Wow.
It's been a while. I have not been able to vent.
Cheerful. I think we need a sneeze guard or a COVID violence. You have COVID
really,
madness.
I can't. It just infuriates me.
Really?
That the stupidity and the bigotry and the hatred of women that really come from all of this stuff. That's really all it is. When I see the rest of the world that's moving forward, yet we are moving backwards. Right? It kind of gets me. It really does. And it really shouldn't, we shouldn't be in this position. I know that's a ridiculous thing to say because we are in this position, but there really is no reason for it. Right? It's not helpful. I don't see where anything in this bill, in this SB 8, in this Texas law, I don't see anything in the Mississippi law. I don't see anything in the Missouri law. I don't see anything in any of these trigger laws that are out there that has anything to do with protecting women.
Right.
In fact, I see a lot that basically, tells women to go screw themselves.
Well, as we discussed...
you won't get pregnant, it might be a better idea.
Right. We discussed a few months back with how even childbirth is more about the obstetrician than it is about the mom.
Exactly.
It's about the obstetrician and the baby. Same way here, the mentality behind all these kinds of laws about the duty to protect life is to relegate women to their rightful position of incubator.
Yes, exactly.
It was the same thing when George W. Bush's Health and Human Services Secretary tried to start that the insurance policies for zygotes.
That's right.
Right? That from the moment of conception, a separate insurance policy from mom just in case mom's insurance doesn't cover enough, or the baby deserves its own. Was surprised that there was no attempts at cashing in after miscarriages.
Well, I'm still thinking about that.
Those kind of insurance policies,
I'm bringing
right?
that idea back up for myself.
To say that a fertilized egg, a zygote, is an equal person with the same rights as the mother, is to say that the mother has no rights.
No, that's right.
That doesn't matter what's going
That's
on
right.
in her body. It's not hers. It's the incubator of that fetus.
Yep. Yeah, and we've talked before about these personhood bills and amendments, and I'm kind of thinking about this again. I'm going to go back. I can do this online now. I will go back. I will get a law degree, right? And I will now go to these states, and I will open up a practice, and I will specialize in fetal representation.
It's not a bad idea. Right.
Right. Let's clog it up.
Yeah.
Let's take it where they want it to go.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody happens to be watching this and maybe our regular viewers and thinking that, why are two dudes talking about abortion? Well, yes, there's a point there that maybe men should not be talking so much about it, especially old white men who write policy around women's bodies. But B, I think more men should be talking about, just like everything on this show, sex talk, whether it's birth control or access to abortion or sexual health and safety. It's always that rolling of the eyes and tisk, here we go again, when sexual and reproductive health are brought up, mostly by men, thinking that these are women's issues.
Right.
And as with anything else, who has the most to gain? Right?
Yeah, these are men's issues just as much.
Right? So men don't get pregnant, and men won't have to worry about that decision whether or not to get abortions.
Yeah, but, okay, men don't get pregnant. But are we not involved in any way?
They have some role to play. And, again, it's usually the same type of folks politically and ideologically who want to come up with equally idiotic laws, such as insisting that a rapist has a say in whether or not a woman can carry
That's right.
a rapist's baby to term.
Well, after all, he is the father.
Oh, I think I think you're right. I know, there's a misogyny and a hatred of women at the core of this, a threat that women pose. These old white men in power.
Yep.
That, like you said, they don't even carry the desires of their constituents.
No.
Because even Republicans. Even conservatives have sex and are in favor, some are in favor of women having rights as equal citizens in this country.
And again, going back to your question earlier, where is the outrage? Right? How many times do we have to continue to hear all of this stuff that these same politicians who are passing these horrible laws, who are treating women and thinking about women in these horrible ways, how many times do we have to keep hearing about them getting busted, making their mistresses get abortions?
Yeah, right.
Right? When does that get old? But there's just so much of this craziness that's flying around. I think it really is going to have to take people saying enough. And, first of all, the ultimate power, you've got to, number one, vote. Right? Period.
If we didn't learn that this time around, we will never learn that.
Second of all, you've got to vote for people that are going to represent your beliefs and your views. You've got to vote for people who will speak for you, not say they will, and then when they get there say, I'm doing what I want because that's what I'm getting paid for. Right? And then the lobby money and the dark money that pervades all of this kind of stuff. I mean, it's insane. It really is.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea of public service, I think, is kind of gone in our political system. It's not going anywhere. And now, especially with Republicans vowing, Mitch McConnell kind of vowing not to work with Democrats. How is that not treason? So, I mean, when you look at some of the bigger nonsense, treating women like dirt, kind of part of that perspective.
There's just more hypocrisy, though, when, our nation-building, successful history that we've had with that, right? We've insisted that Iraq and Afghanistan treat women better than we do here at home.
Yep.
Kind of ironic.
Yeah. Now, I will say one good thing that did happen this week relative to abortion is that President Biden did overturn Trump's change in the law, basically saying, according to Title IX funding, that if they provide even referrals for abortion, that they will not get funding. Mm-hmm. So he's changed that back to where it should be. But again, there's so many of these just ridiculous things. The Missouri law, which is going to be probably challenged on the grounds of it singles out Planned Parenthood for Medicaid discrimination. Right? But again, how ridiculous does this stuff get? Because now they're making this part of their abortion regulation. Missouri, not Mississippi. But that in addition to regulating abortion, everybody that works in an abortion clinic has to have regular fire drill training.
Oh, wow. Right? Yeah, probably because the people who work in these places are used to their heads just bursting into flames from dealing with all this political bullshit. Spontaneous combustion.
So, millennials, Gen Zers, I mean, it really has to be up to you at this point. Right? It really does.
We need Georgias to happen all over the country in 2022.
That's right.
Desperately, we need those kind of miracles because they are bound and determined to wrest back control. Not just the House, but the state houses all over the country, which
it's got to be local.
They already have control over.
That's right, they do.
Or we wouldn't be seeing all these nonsense laws.
The local elections are just as important, in some cases even more important. Right? So it's got to happen. You've got to have a voice. You've got to make it heard.
Yeah. Otherwise, QAnon people are going to be running our government.
That's right. And those of you who just are so fed up and saying, forget it, I'm not going to vote for anybody, what's the point? That's exactly what they want you to do. So you are doing their bidding. Right? You're not standing your ground. You're not making a point. You're not being creative. You're not being an individual. You're being their dog. All right? So, something to think about. And if you want to be independent, you want to be on top of it, you have to do something. Right? And I think we all have to just stop the nonsense. Right? Stop the nonsense. It's just getting to be way too much. And and it's not really just about abortion either. Because once abortion falls, contraception will fall. Rights to gay, trans, and non-heterosexual people will fall. Everything that, as a generation, millennials and Gen Zers hold important will fall. All right? So you want to talk about a slippery slope. Right? You don't have to worry about legalizing gay marriage, and what we've seen is, no, people have not been marrying their goats. Right? Sorry, Justice Scalia, you were, as most of what you said, you were wrong about. But this is one that has real potential to slide down and take a whole lot of stuff with it. Right? So we've got to keep that fire burning. So I'll probably be a little hot-headed. Some more of these kinds of conversations that we have.
Okay. I'll wear my asbestos shirt next week.
There you go.
So I guess that'll do it for this week. Welcome back, Hothead.
Yes, thank you. Good to be back.
And thank you for joining us. And we will be back this Friday and every Friday at 7 o'clock on YouTube. Once again, please like and share and subscribe to our channel. And see you next time on Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers.
Thanks for watching Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us each week on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can also follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay on top of the latest developments in the ever-changing world of sex and sexuality.